Hello and welcome to ReallyBigHat. My name is Jared, and this is D&D Builds Baldur's Gate 3 style. This video will somewhat function as a normal D&D build. If you follow along the build process in Baldur's Gate 3, you can, of course, copy this for D&D 5th edition, because they are just about interchangeable. There are a few differences here and there, but, for the most part, you'll be able to follow along just as well for a tabletop build as the Baldur's Gate 3 build. That being said, what I'm doing this time is I'm only building up to level 6, because I am focusing on Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3, and building for that level, which caps out at around 6. That's a good average level to be finishing Act 1 with. I will be using the character respec option in order to actually show off the build. So if you don't want to be spoiled on that, I won't show which character you actually go to do so. And as far as spoilers are concerned, there will be some minor spoilers for your party members, Act 1 abilities, and some minor spoilers for a fight that is towards the end of Act 1. I will be using that to show off some actual combat of this character. So be forewarned that there are some minor spoilers for some little things in this video. If you want to avoid that, then here is your warning. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over to Baldur's Gate 3, and we will go over the build. So here we are at the respec screen for level 1. This is where we're going to be starting the build. I have already filled out all of the details here, so we're just going to go over my choices, explain why I made them, and maybe extrapolate onto some of the other choices you could make. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, we are starting as a Paladin instead of starting as a Bard. We're going to be multi-classing into Bard later on. We're starting as a Paladin mainly for the proficiencies in all weapons and armor. That means that we have simple and martial weapon proficiencies, as well as light, medium, heavy armor, and shields. So any piece of equipment that we come across in the game, we're going to be able to equip to ourselves and use. Right now, I have medium armor on, for example, because it had, after the dexterity bonus, equal AC to the heavy armor I found, but this doesn't impose disadvantage on stealth checks. So, it's a little bit better off when everything shakes out. But those types of decisions are going to be up to you on a per-game basis, depending on what kind of loot you actually find. Anyway, moving right along, we do get Lay on Hands here. This is an action that we can use a Lay on Hands charge to heal a creature or ourselves for a certain amount of HP, and this doesn't use a spell slot. It's a free pool of healing that you have every long rest, so don't forget about this, because sometimes I would, and yeah, there's a lot of features with this build. That is something I'm going to warn you about right now. I'm going to interject right here and say, this build does so much. So really take your time when you're building it, like level by level, to look over all of your features, really get to understand what they do, what they're for, and remember to use them when the proper situation arises. Because my first time playing through the game with this type of build, I was only using about half the stuff that I had, and there were situations where I really should have been using more. So that is my PSA here for this build. There's a lot of stuff with it, so make sure you're really focused on using your abilities when it is the proper time and place. Moving right along, we do have Divine Sense, where we gain advantage on attack rolls against celestial fiends and undead. That is activated as a bonus action and lasts 2 turns. And so far in the first 2 acts, which is what I've experienced of the game so far, as of this recording, there are no shortage of those enemy types. I mean, they pop up from time to time, so that is a useful feature to have. We also get 1 Channel Oath charge here at first level. Those replenish on a short rest, and they are used to fuel, for us as an Oath of the Ancients Paladin, our Healing Radiance. This is a bonus action where we can heal ourselves and all nearby allies for 6 hit points, and then regain another 6 hit points next turn. So between Lay on Hands and Healing Radiance, we have an action and bonus action heal, neither of which use a spell slot, and one of which heals multiple creatures. So we're already an amazing healer right here at level 1. We honestly might be a better healer than a Life Domain Cleric at level 1. Like, honestly. It's up for debate. Also, as a Paladin, it is important to look at and remember your tenets for your playthrough, because these are actually important to your roleplay. If you break your Paladin Oath, you will lose your Paladin powers until such a time as a certain NPC visits your camp and you talk to them. You can either retake your vow and restore your original oath, or you can become an Oathbreaker. That is entirely up to you. I mean, if you want to become an Oathbreaker, then, what you want to do is read your oath and then immediately break it at your first opportunity. But yeah, that is something to definitely keep in mind as you play through a game as a Paladin, is to keep an eye on your tenets and roleplay it properly. Otherwise, you will lose your powers, and you'll have to, again, either retake your vow or become an Oathbreaker. Moving on to our ability scores, we have left Strength at 8 because we're going with a Dexterity build, so Dexterity is at 16, Constitution is at 14, Intelligence is at 8, we don't really use that for anything, Wisdom is at 12, and Charisma is at 16. And for our skill proficiencies, I have gone with Athletics, Insight, Perception, Intimidation, and Persuasion. Athletics and Intimidation are from our Soldier background, but they play pretty well with this build. Athletics is always useful. Insight comes up a decent amount. Perception comes up all the time. Intimidation and Persuasion both come up pretty regularly. So, yeah, there's really not a skill that you can take where you won't find some opportunity to use it. So, really make the character your own here more than anywhere else. Is, pick your skills, pick your background. I went with the Soldier background, and I am a human. That is mainly for demonstration purposes. That is so that when I make more builds with this character, I'm working from the same baseline, so you can kind of see how that affects the character and use that to inform your own decision on your race and your background. So, that is it for level 1, I believe, and we can move on to level 2. So, at level 2 of Paladin, we get a number of features. We get spell casting, so we get some level 1 spell slots and a pool of spells to prepare, because as a Paladin, we are a prepared spellcaster. We know all our spells, and we choose which ones to prepare as we go through our adventure. We also get access to Divine Smite. This is the big one. This is the feature we are going to be using a lot with this character. We are going to be abusing this. So, Divine Smite, A++, S-class feature. For our fighting style, I am going to pick up Defense. You could, if you were going to use two-handed weapons, pick up Great Weapon Fighting. You could pick up Protection, because we are going to be using a shield. I would not recommend dueling, however, because we are going to be getting that later as a Swords Bard. So, Defense for now gives you a +1 bonus armor class. That's just always useful. It's the default choice if you don't have something else you're doing with your build, I would say. And as for which spells to prepare, that's really up to you. But for this build, I would recommend Cure Wounds, so we have another font of healing, this one powered by spell slots. Bless is okay. If you don't have a cleric in your party, you can be the one to cast Bless. You're pretty good at concentrating on spells. You have decent con. So, and then Searing, Thunderous, and Wrathful Smite, just so that you have your options to really dole out the damage. Then, at character level 3, instead of going with Paladin level 3, we are going to multiclass into Bard. With that, we get 2 cantrips. I would not recommend Vicious Mockery. It is your only offensive cantrip as a Bard, but we're going to be using weapons with this character, and we're going to be using them very, very effectively. So the situation where we would be stuck casting Vicious Mockery are so few and far between as to be almost just non-existent. So I would definitely recommend taking some utility cantrips here. I'm going to pick up Mage Hand and Minor Illusion. Light is another good one if you're a human and you want to illuminate your weapons so that you can get into melee in dark areas and not suffer disadvantage. Dancing Lights can be used for a similar thing. Friends you can use to get advantage on charisma checks, although, there might be consequences to that. And then True Strike, no. Blade Ward, no. There are some niche cases for True Strike and Blade Ward. They do last for 2 turns in this game, so you could cast them before combat and then gain their effects on the first round, but I still wouldn't recommend them. Then, as for our spells here, Healing Word. So now we have Cure Wounds, Healing Word, and Lay on Hands, and our AoE heal from Oath of the Ancients. So we've got so much healing. Yep. We are the de facto cleric in our party if there is not one present. And even if there is, we are the most capable backup healer of all time. So that is something to keep in mind as you play, that you are a very good healer. You don't always want to be wasting your spell slots on healing, but a clutch, Cure Wounds, or Healing Word at the right time is sometimes more valuable than attacking. That is situational, and it's going to be up to you to determine when those times are, but we have those abilities, so they are there to be used. I would also definitely recommend picking up Longstrider here, because this is a ritual spell, so as long as we're casting it outside of combat, it is not costing us a spell slot. That means we can just cast this on all 4 party members, and everybody in our party can now move by an extra 10 feet until a long rest. So that is pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Especially on melee combatants and characters who already have increased movement speeds, like barbarians and monks, or anybody who's a wood elf or a half wood elf. It really pays dividends throughout an entire campaign, just being able to move more. After that, I would recommend looking at some of the other utility spells here. Speak with Animals is a good one. If you don't have a druid or a ranger in your party to cast that, you can absolutely be the one to pick that up. Disguise Self is good for shenanigans. You can use this in conjunction with Speak with Dead, for example, to speak with a corpse that you yourself killed, because as you're now disguised, they don't know you're the one that killed it. There are a lot of other use cases, and this is also a ritual for you, so it doesn't cost you a spell slot. Same thing with Speak with Animals. That's a ritual. Doesn't cost you a spell slot. You can just cast this at the beginning of every day and be able to speak with animals until a long rest. Featherfall is another really good utility spell if you don't have somebody else in the party that has it. It can be used either to hedge yourself against the verticality in this game, just in case you're afraid of getting thrown off a building, or it can be used situationally for the story to, jump down a hole that you wouldn't have access to otherwise, because you would die if you jumped in without Featherfall. Yeah, there are opportunities like that. However, I would say, Fairy Fire is another really good one. You can just lay this down on a group of enemies and get its advantage on all of them, and that is amazing. But I'm going to go ahead and actually pick up Thunderwave so that you yourself can have an AoE that can also throw some enemies off cliffs or off buildings or what have you. And I like having at least one offensive spell, because we do have a charisma of 16. We are just as good of a spellcaster as if we had come in and rolled up a pure caster. Our charisma couldn't be higher than a +3 at this point in the game. So, this is your prime spellcasting. Our starting instrument, violin. That sounds good to me. It doesn't really matter here. Pick whichever one is your favorite. I mean, if you have a favorite, pick it. I like the violin well enough. It's what I went with on my first playthrough. It's got some pretty cool sounds coming out of it when you cast your Bardic Inspiration or your Bard spells. And whatever you pick here, you will automatically have in your inventory as well. So you don't have to pick an instrument that you had already found thinking that that was your only option. So you can pick whatever you want here, and you will have one. And then we also get a skill proficiency here. I'm actually going to pick up Sleight of Hand. That will make us basically the party rogue. Between our Perception and Sleight of Hand proficiencies, we can spot traps and disarm them. We can lockpick. We could pickpocket if we want. We're good enough at Sleight of Hand to do that. We also have, Persuasion, so we're the party face. So there is very little need to ever really switch to our other party members, except in very niche circumstances. Like, this is a main character syndrome character. We can do everything, and we're great at it. So, have fun with that. Moving on to level 4. Bard level 2. We pick up Jack of all trades, which gets us even better at all the skills that we didn't pick proficiency in. At this level, we're getting half of our proficiency bonus rounded down, so that's going to be a +1 to ability checks that we are not proficient in. We also get Song of Rest. This is such a clutch ability. That is just an extra short rest for your entire party every day. That means if you have party members that have features that come back on a short rest, like fighters or monks, or warlocks, you can just go crazy and, really get all the use out of all of their features. This gives you 3 short rests at every long rest. It's amazing, and it cannot be understated. We also get up to level 2 spell slots now. Since a Paladin is a half caster, those 2 Paladin levels count as 1 full caster level. So we do now have access to level 2 spell slots, and we're only 1 level behind that curve. Like, instead of getting them at level 3, we're getting them at level 4. So we're barely off the spellcasting curve with this character. And although we don't get any level 2 spells at this level, we can use those to smite. So that is very, very tasty. As for our spells, like I was saying earlier, just pick up whatever utility your party doesn't have here. Disguise Self is great, Featherfall, Fairy Fire. You can pick up Dissonant Whispers. You can pick up Hideous Laughter if you want to have the ability to lock down, an enemy. You can pick up Charm Person, Animal Friendship. Go nuts. The world is your oyster here. And you also have the option to replace a spell. So if you had picked up a utility earlier that later did get picked up by a party member, you can swap it out and get something else. Moving on to character level 5, Bard level 3, we get our subclass. So we are going to be picking the College of Swords. So first and foremost, we do get another level 2 spell slot, so those are very effective. But we also get expertise in 2 skills. I'm going to pick Persuasion and Sleight of Hand. So now we have +7 in both of those skills. Those come up a lot. Persuasion is very, very useful, especially when you're talking to your party members. Persuasion checks come up with them a lot. And Sleight of Hand is just all over this game. Anytime you want to lockpick, disarm a trap, pickpocket somebody, Sleight of Hand checks, all day. We also do get access to level 2 spells here. There are a number of good ones. Definitely, just pick up your favorite here. Shatter is a really good AoE if you're going for more of an offensive use for your spells here. Although the best offensive use of your spell slots is always going to be a Smite. Well, it's usually going to be a Smite. I won't say always, because we do get to some really good high-level spells with this character. Phantasmal Force is another good one. Lesser Restoration if we're running without a cleric, because we're basically the cleric with all of our healing. You can absolutely pick that up if you want. Knock, if you don't want to have to... This is especially useful if you don't take sleight of hand expertise like I just did. So you can just, unlock stuff with a spell slot. Although, it does use the spell slot, so if you have the skill, I would say use the skill. I'm going to be picking up invisibility, because we didn't take stealth proficiency or expertise or anything like that. And this is basically the equivalent of that. We're getting advantage on attacks. If we come out of invisibility and attack something, we are able to sneak around basically with impunity while we're invisible. So there's a lot you can do while you're invisible. There are some other really good ones here. Hold person, heat metal. Enhance ability is another good one to pick up if you're running without a cleric and you want to be the one casting enhance ability. Detect thoughts is a really good social spell. That comes up decently often, and having that option in your back pocket is good. Cloud of Daggers is a nice little AoE. Calm Emotions can shut down a barbarian rage. That's kind of fun. Blindness is a good debuff as well. So yeah, you've got tons of options here. Bardic spellcasting is pretty darn good. Moving on to our chosen subclass, we get flourishes here, which are pretty darn cool. First off, we get Slashing Flourish, and these are all applicable both to melee and ranged attacks. So we get Slashing Flourish, which we can attack 2 enemies at once. That is especially useful for ranged, because we can really spread this out. Like, if you've got a nice ranged weapon and you can Slashing Flourish 2 targets, they're each going to be taking the weapon damage plus an additional d6 of slashing. Moving right along, we also have Defensive Flourish. This will jack up our AC to the stratosphere by increasing it by 4. That's only if we hit our target, though. So that is something to keep in mind. Then we also have Mobile Flourish. This is basically the Battle Master's pushing attack, but it's actually pushing it back 20 feet. And then afterwards, we have the option to teleport to the target if we want. So that's also pretty cool. All of these do use our Bardic Inspiration when we are using these. So that is also something to keep in mind, that the more we use these, the less we're going to be using our Bardic Inspiration to actually inspire our allies. So you really do have to balance that against how you want to be using your Bardic Inspiration. Later on, as a Bard, we do get the ability to recover our Bardic Inspiration die on a short rest. So once that happens, combine that with our Song of Rest, giving us 3 short rests, and you can basically spam these as much as you want. We also do pick up a fighting style here. I'm going to pick up Dueling. 2-weapon fighting is absolutely an option if you want to dual wield. You can pick up the feat, the dual wielder feat, along with this to dual wield rapiers, and just, be that guy dual wielding rapiers. That feat also does get you a +1 to AC, so it's basically half a shield. We are equipping a shield and using dueling, so our AC is going to be a little higher. But if you find yourself with a free bonus action often with this build, which honestly you shouldn't, because there are so many things you can use a bonus action for with this build, but if you do find yourself in that situation often enough, 2-weapon fighting might be an option. Might be an option for you. And then moving right along to level 6, which is actually where I'm going to stop this build, because this is an early access. Or, not early access, this is an Act 1. Sorry, I'm just so used to calling it early access. This is an Act 1 build, so we are capping at level 6, because that's about as high as you're going to be getting in Act 1. Typically. Okay? But we do get up to level 3 spell slots here at level 6, so we can smite at 3rd level. We also pick up another cantrip. Again, take what you want here. I'll go ahead and pick up light, since I am a human. So if you're in the dark, you can put light on your weapon, and once you're in melee, you can actually see what you're stabbing. For our spells, like I said, there are a lot of really good ones. I'm going to go ahead and just pick up Shatter, so that we have a mix of utility and damage. And then we also get a feat here. We can either pick up an ability improvement to increase our dexterity or our charisma, both of which are very valid options. But I'm actually going to recommend the lucky feat, because with this character, we do not have extra attack yet. So we are, like a rogue, putting all of our eggs into one basket for one really powerful attack. They do it with sneak attack, we're doing it with smite. We do get extra attack at Bard level 6, but that is still 2 levels away. So, until then, Lucky will just give us advantage on our next attack roll, so we can more reliably hit whatever target we're trying to attack, and we won't whiff our attacks near as much. You could also increase your dexterity to just increase your accuracy that way, but I've found that advantage is better than a +1 bonus, and these do regenerate every long rest, I believe. Let me double check. Does it say here? Yeah, long rest. Okay, I was right. Yep, I remembered correctly. So yeah, lucky feat, really good, especially if you're a rogue or, you know, like us, a class with one attack that really wants that attack to land. Lucky. Take lucky. And that will actually do it for this build. We will go ahead and accept these changes, and we will move on to some demonstrations. See you there. So, what I'm going to be doing is going to the Githyanki encounter here at the end of Act 1, and we are going to be fighting them as a demonstration of our build's power. So we are going to go and take care of them. I just wanted to show you my equipment, everything that's actually in my inventory. I've pared it down to just the bare essentials. And we are using the Haste Helm, so we get momentum for 3 turns at the start of combat. That combines with Long Strider, so it's a lot of movement speed. We have a Breastplate +1, giving us a base 15 armor class. That gets increased to 20 between our dexterity, our shield, and our fighting style. We have the Gloves of Thievery. These don't do anything in combat. They give us advantage on sleight of hand checks. We have the Boots of Striding. When we cast a spell that requires concentration, of which we have several, we gain momentum. And while we're concentrating, we can't get knocked prone or be moved against our will, and we have a +1 to athletics. Pretty good boots. We also have a Ring of Poison Resistance. Does what it says, grants resistance to poison damage. We also have a Spurred Band. When we start our turn with less than 50% hit points, we gain momentum. So there's a lot of momentum on this build. We also have the Rupturing Blade here. It is a +1 rapier with a special attack on it. And we have a Safeguard Shield, which gives our saving throws +1. We also have Herald, which is a heavy crossbow that can bane our target, and it has a +1 enchantment. So that is what we're running with. This is all stuff that you can get before this point, obviously. I got it before this point. And yeah, I've got a bunch of potions, some scrolls, some gold, my Thieves' Tools, and a Trap Disarm Toolkit, and a shovel. So yeah, that's all I'm carrying there. And I think that's all, yeah, anybody is carrying. So let's away to the Githyanki. Looks like Astarion is first up in combat, so we will use his assassin ability to attack with advantage, get sneak attack on her. She will parry it. We will do this other thing here. That might be a spoiler, actually. I'll put a brief spoiler warning before this video, just to let people know. So they missed Gale a couple of times. Alright, now it is our turn. Time to show off the build nice and proper. So let's go up to this person, since they are high in the initiative order, and try and take them out of the initiative order. We will come over and attack. We missed with a 14, but we will use Lucky to re-roll that, and then we will Divine Smite at 3rd level. We do have Flourish with our Rapier, so we will also re-roll the critical miss. You know, it seems like if we roll a critical miss and then re-roll with Lucky, it doesn't matter what the re-roll is. It still applies the critical miss. And that applies on critical hits from the enemy trying to re-roll that too. You still get crit every time. I think that's a bug. It's probably something that's going to be patched out, but I guess that's just something to mention here. Okay, so it's Gale's turn. He will hide up the ladder like a sissy. And we will... Oh, what will we do? I forgot to... Let's see. Let's see if we can't fireball some fools. We can get 3 of them in that. And then hide up this ladder. And for Shadowheart, let's put some Spirit Guardians on. And we'll heal up Astarion a little, maybe. Why not? Okay, they do try and attack us, but we've got great AC, so it's not going to go that well. Can we sneak attack while dazed? Yes, we can. But we miss. Oh well. Offhand attack. It's too bad that they don't have the actual way sneak attack works, where we could have done it with our offhand here. Alright, our turn again. So let's show off some of our spellcasting. Let's actually Thunder Wave at 2nd level on both of them. Yep, we get a nice little shove on that guy, do a decent chunk of damage. And then we can Bardically Inspire. How about Astarion? That way he doesn't miss again. Okay, they're a lot more spread out now, so I don't think another fireball is going to do the trick. But let's see. Oh, I can get 2 of them with it. That's decent. I'll do it. Yeah, if you didn't know that Fireball and Spirit Guardians were good before this video, now you know. So we will sneak attack, try and finish her off, and there we go. Yeah, little the worse for wear. Yeah, we barely got to show off ourselves there, but, you know, our abilities were somewhat displayed. But yeah, that's what combat looks like with this character with our, you know, basic party of adventurers here. I went with these 3 because they're the earliest ones that you get access to, and, you know, it's a good baseline to show where your party is power-wise at this level as well as just your build individually. But yeah, we can we can really pump out the damage with our Divine Smites. We've got up to level 3 Smites, which do, 11 to 46 damage at level 3, which is just ridiculous. Yeah, we could really pump out the hurt with this character. But we can also heal. So let's show off our Lay on Hands, Greater Healing. Let's get Astarion back up. There you go, 24 hit points. And if that wasn't enough, we also have Healing Radiance. So we can do that as well. And this one, our Channel Oath charge here actually comes back on a short rest. So if that wasn't enough, and then if short rest wasn't enough, we could do it again. And yeah, so that's our character. We are pretty darn potent in combat, throwing out Divine Smites left and right. We do have, equipment-wise, we're pretty good at ranged combat as well. With our nice heavy crossbow, we can, hit some fools from range if our long strider, and momentum isn't enough to get into melee. We could be the one to cast Bless on everybody, if we want. We can concentrate on some support spells. We have a lot of stuff we can do. We can turn invisible. Whoop! I'm gone. Then you can just sneak around wherever you darn well please. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of daylight. You can just, hey, look, I'm invisible. And I do also want to show off our lockpicking ability, because we are also really good at that. So let's move on to a different scene here and show that off. So here we are with an earlier version of this build that I had when I was just setting up. I saved in front of a locked iron gate just to show, lockpicking later on. So here we are. If we go into the lockpicking screen, this is a difficulty class of 20. But between guidance, our dexterity, our sleight of hand proficiency, our advantage from our equipment, we actually have a plus 7 to 10 bonus. So we've got a good chance at this. And what do you know? We nat 20. We get the heaven and hell rolls, so 1 out of 20. So that's that open. And we can continue on to the next locked thing. This one's only a 15. Yep, with our advantage roll of a 12, we get to add, bam, 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 get up over a 21. So that's another facet of this character. We are the frontline scout, as well as the face, as well as a powerful melee and ranged combatant. We have healing, we have offensive spells, we have maneuverability, we have everything with this character. So I really do hope you have fun playing it. I sure have. And I will sign off here and say I will see you guys next time. Later.